Oh, hello, and welcome to Aldente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And tonight we have Memories. So, Memories is one of the stories in the WontThinkStraight saga, yet again. Again, I should have checked to see where it was on the list.
I have been chronicling the numbers because you ask about it every time. This is number 7.
So this is number 7? Okay, cool. Memories is by WontThinkStraight. You can check it out at Reddit NoSleep along with all the other WontThinkStraight saga stories. Let's before we get too far ahead though, let's give our initial recommendations. I'm going to recommend this one.
I'm going to not recommend this one.
I will be the balance between you two. I will partially.
All right. Well, let's see why we give those recommendations. And perhaps it'll change or perhaps it'll stay the same. Starting with the rundown, though. So WTS is back. And this time they are telling the story, but it's based off of a story that was told to them by Clive from the Patient Sigma story that we encountered last time. Clive brings forth another strange case he had in his career. This one of Lucy. So Lucy had a great childhood with her family, who were farm folk. Her older brother Ryan went from being an annoying rival person in her life to a good friend over the years. The two of them even made a time capsule out back under an old oak tree, filling it with little trinkets and letters to future generations and such. Lucy also had a friend on their walk to school, Matthew, who she had a crush on, and as the years went on, they both grew closer and closer. Eventually, though, after a strange week of separation and Matthew keeping his distance from Lucy, Matthew eventually came around again and led Lucy out into the woods where he had been setting up a means of proposing to her, and she tearfully said yes. Soon to be married, sometime after the proposal, Lucy found out that she was pregnant. I bet you're wondering at this point where the horror story is taking place. Don't worry. While on a visit to the hospital, some anomalous readings had Lucy stay overnight, and in the morning, that's when things go bad. She finds out not only does she appear to have a phantom pregnancy where she did not actually have a baby, according to doctors, but her parents, her brother, Matthew, no one seems to know who she is, or they don't exist anymore. This is when Clive came into the scene, as she had been looked into psychologically. And after a clean bill of health, all things considered, Clive took her back to her home, or at least the home that was on her identification and such. The family farm was in ruins, left to rot after a husband and wife and their only child, their only son, Ryan, died as a car crashed through their house about 15 years prior. When they visited Matthew's parents, Lucy discovered that Matthew would have been the name of the parent's son if they had had a healthy child, but unfortunately they had a stillborn about 20 years back. So yeah, nothing is as it was, and Lucy is soon after admitted to an asylum for the rest of her days. Though there is something peculiar, for Lucy did check the old oak out back and did find the time capsule box buried there, only it was mostly empty. So as Lucy waits now to simply fade away as she's given up all hope of her once happy life, The story ends with a message to cherish your memories, because you never know what the future holds. Finn. So, that was the story of Memories. And I suppose we'll move on to Everyone Tolerates the Grand Inquisitions at this point. And I've got a couple. So I'll start with this one here. She had an ongoing rivalry with her brother Ryan, in brackets, who was 2 years older, in bracket. That mellowed over the years to form the unspoken love and respect that bonds siblings together. So this might be a nitpick, but should it be binds siblings together?
Bonded? Maybe?
Yeah, I don't know, like.
Well, it's because it's not specifically referencing just them in the past. It's referencing anyone, past, present, or future.
Yeah, that's why I said like should it stay bonds, or should it actually be like the unspoken love and respect that binds siblings together?
Well, but you have a bond with someone.
Yeah, but bind is just another version, another variation of bonds. And I think it's more like the verb of it than. So.
Well, bind is more constricting.
But that's what a bond is.
But also, this is. I'm surprised you're wanting to go present tense with it, Mr. Tense Talk.
I know it's weird, but this is why this is why I said it was. This may be a nitpick nook, is because like for me, like that's how I would have had it been binds if I was writing this. But I'm not sure if I'm in the right or not.
Or,
I mean, personally, I think it works either way.
Okay.
So it might just be a matter of opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. To the nook with you.
No! To the shadow nook. Fell into my trap card. Oh god. I'll move on to the next one.
It's fine.
One summer when she was 7, Ryan had the idea to create a time capsule for explorers from the future to discover one day. Wait, Ryan's the brother. I think this needs to either be when he was 7, or since the story revolves entirely around Lucy as like the focus subject, maybe it should be when Lucy was 7, I think is what it's actually trying to get at.
Well, it says when she was 7.
Yeah, when she was 7, and then in comma, Ryan had the idea to. So I just like a little bit more clarity on who she was. Just like
she's not Ryan.
I know, but again, am I?
There's only one she in the story.
I know. Am I still trapped in the nitpick nook here?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think you're barricading yourself in there now at this point.
All right. Well, there's going to be a couple of other nitpicks then, I think, coming up.
We might be right. You might be wrong. Or vice versa. Who knows?
Yeah.
You might be right and we might be idiots and be wrong.
Okay, I'm pretty
because it's not like any of us are actually educated in this.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I took some creative writing classes and stuff like that, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Again, this is just like like our round of editing for the story.
I do get what you're saying though, because like it's saying her age, and then immediately it starts talking about Ryan right after the age, which almost makes it feel like Ryan is the one who's 7.
Yeah,
like that's what you're basically getting at, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like for a second, it sounds like the sentence is talking about Ryan. When
although earlier it does say that Ryan is plus 2 years, so any age that's given for her plus 2 is Ryan.
Yes, but my problem is it says one summer when she was 7, Ryan had the idea to create a time capsule, blah, blah, blah. So like, to me, when I read that, when I quickly read through that, it sounds like Ryan is the 7-year-old, but
I think the issue is that it's because it's the beginning of a paragraph. So she technically isn't defined.
That's what I'm getting at.
So
again, I might be in the nitpick nook for this. So like, I'm sorry, but
so you'd be happier if it said when Lucy was 7.
Yeah, just for extra clarity on that.
But the previous paragraph starts with Lucy had a very happy childhood, and then the next paragraph after the one we're talking about is Lucy attended this. So it's Lucy this, Lucy that.
I mean, sure, whatever. Like, that's why
it might be too repetitive if there's 3 paragraphs in a row that start with Lucy.
Yeah, because then you get into like the C spot run kind of thing situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, that's why I said it might be a nitpick. But I'll move on to the next thing I have. This one I don't think is a nitpick, but I let you be the judge.
We'll see about that.
I'll let you be the judge for this one. Along the far wall of the trees, wires were strung out, upon which were hung rows of jars with delicate care. So I don't think it needs 2 words in a row. Upon which were hung, like, yeah, it should be upon.
How the hell did I not see that?
Yeah, I think it should be upon which were hung rows of jars with delicate care.
Honestly, you don't even need were upon which hung rows of jars.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Yeah. Yeah, you could go. I could leave or take like you only need 1 word or no words.
Yes.
Too many words. Throw all away.
Throw 2 away.
But I will go to the next one I have here. The doctors told Lucy she a phantom pregnancy, that there was no child in her. So I think it should be the doctors told Lucy that the doctors told Lucy she had a phantom pregnancy.
No, she is a phantom pregnancy.
Yeah, also, the doctor is Dr. Caveman.
Yes, that's just the way they talk in this universe.
Yeah, exactly.
She hopped over to the caveman.
Yeah, she hopped into the universe where like Neanderthals became the dominant human species.
Yeah.
Well, and he's solving the story because by saying that she was a phantom pregnancy, it means that she doesn't exist.
Ah, okay.
Ooh,
yeah. But I think it's wrong. I think it actually should have she had a phantom pregnancy, not that she a phantom pregnancy. And I'll move on to my last one. And this one's a paragraph, so I apologize, but I have to get it out here. So, with no further leads, Clive eventually had her committed to an asylum where she now waits out her days. The first few years, she struggled angrily, but as hope faded, defiance turned to grief, and then to acceptance of her fate. As much as she tries to forget her past and move on, the precious few items she has remaining anchor her to a mysterious past. A faded family portrait found in a box under an oak, and a star sapphire ring surrounded with diamonds. So, again, this might be a nitpick, but I do kind of feel like the first sentence should be at the bottom of this paragraph. So, like, it starts with the first few years she struggled angrily, but blah, blah, blah. And then at the afterward, it goes after all that stuff is said, it ends with no further leads. Clive eventually had her committed to an asylum. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you're actually 100% right on that.
Yeah, but also, like, I'm kind of on the picket fence here because I could take it or leave it. Like, this is just a suggestion.
But
because when I read this, I was like, I think I had a gamer moment where I was like, I had to reconstruct my my headcanon because I was like, I wasn't sure what was going. Like we suddenly got like, oh, she was committed to an insane asylum, and then we got all these details that kind of felt like they should go before that she was committed to an insane asylum.
Well, but it's when she's in the insane asylum, like she's angrily attacking the padded walls.
No, that's true. That is also very true. Like, yeah, this is why I could take it or leave it, and this is why I also think I'm in the nitpick nook, is because this might be a nitpick.
Yes.
More than but also it's more of like I'm kind of just like, this is just sort of a suggestion for the narrative structure, but yeah. But as I sit here barricaded in the nitpick nook, I guess I'll move on to Mikey. These stands for evil. Your grammar inquisition.
All right, I have one. So, Though a few weeks later, they had to accelerate the wedding plans as Lucy found out she was pregnant. So I feel like it needs a comma after plans, and I actually rewrote it a bit.
Okay.
So, though a few weeks later, they had to accelerate the wedding plans because Lucy had found out she was pregnant.
Okay.
I could take or leave it.
Yeah.
Works either way, in my opinion. But yeah.
I feel at the very least it needs a comma between plans and as. To
Yeah.
break it up a bit.
Yeah. I kind of on the again. I'm kind of between you guys. I could take it or leave it.
Right. And then I have a conjunction junction.
All right.
And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It was convenient that they were in the same classes, so spent most of their childhood growing up together. But Lucy also vividly recalled that Sunday when she was 19 when Matthew changed and started acting strangely. It was the second most beautiful thing Lucy had ever seen in her life. It's as if the universe had abandoned her. So treasure all your memories, good and bad, for you never know. One morning you may wake up to find everyone you know has vanished, and memories are all that you're left with. Finn.
Okay, so she had a crush on a biblically accurate angel. And
I'm sorry?
but then like the reason that angel had come to her was because the rapture was upon everybody and she was the only one left behind.
I don't know where the hell you're getting that.
Well, because like you were talking about like earlier, like about like Matthew, and then like it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen, and then like just everyone started vanishing. That's how I got
Yeah. The way I saw it is like she's like has a crush on some guy, but she didn't really like him. But like it was like that he changed into something, and it was great that he changed because it gave her a reason to break up with him, basically.
Yeah.
Because she was like, it's like it says that he changed, and like that seems horrible. But then the next line is like, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's like, thank God I'm out of this.
But then everybody's gone.
Yeah. But yeah, those are the kind of silly things that can happen when Mikey reads a string of sentences that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like its, ands, or buts, because there's always better words to use.
Indeed. And then I guess we move on to Gamer.
No.
Okay, then I guess we go on to actual thoughts. All right, so I'm going to start with this one here. To help future generations find it, they had grabbed a knife from the kitchen to carve in the stone a large, crude X to mark the spot. Lucy remembered her parents grounding her for 2 weeks for destroying that knife and not telling why she did it. She had agreed with Ryan that it was best for the box to stay secret for others to find. So I don't know why, but at this point in the story, which is like what? How far is that from the start? That is literally
left
like
knife.
That's like
fifth paragraph.
Yeah, fourth or fifth paragraph, like basically like page 1 of I think like 5 pages. Why do I get this is my note here. Why do I get the feeling this is going to end with a Mandela effect or something, like Ryan either not existing or only Lucy remembering Ryan? Just something about the fact that Lucy's was the only one that it mentions specifically getting grounded.
Or she just took the heat for it.
I guess like that is the most like that's the Occam's razor thing. But like I don't know. At this point, I was just like I was already suspicious of the story. Is like the title's memories. Why do I get the feeling this is a Mandela effect story?
Yeah, for sure. Especially with like the time capsule, like that's perfect fodder for that.
Yeah, and actually the time capsule, has some extra things too. But yeah, I'll move on to the next thing I have, which is somewhat related, I believe. So this sentence here was when she's in the hospital and such, and it's like when she awoke that morning, her whole life was turned upside down, and then it goes into the fact that like reality has changed around her, and like her parents are dead, her son or her brother is dead. Also, she was never they never had a daughter, kind of to begin with, kind of stuff like that. And so at this point, I was like, okay, so I guess I was kind of right near the beginning, kind of. Like this part brought to mind the whole like sliders, like reality shifting thing from the Mandela Effect story we did a while back. Like definitely got some memories of that story in this one.
And even though you said sliders as sliders, I imagined it as like just a plate of small hamburgers being handed to someone.
Yeah. Fair.
Hey, would you like some sliders?
Man,
Delicious.
I don't know if White Castle existed in the 90s, but I feel like that was the perfect like cross pollination, like crossover, like pollination for like
cross promotion, yeah.
Promotional stuff. Yeah, like have White Castle like promoting like a special deal on sliders.
Did White Castle make the idea of the slider?
Well, I think that they're the most common one, and I think the only reason they're really popular for sliders is because of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Yeah, fair.
But again, moving on to the actual story, yeah. So I definitely got like some of that, and I guess also like the title Memories kind of like primed me for like this is gonna be like something about like somebody remembering something that isn't the same, and I shouldn't have been surprised that this was going to have a twist that the character of the character's described life not matching reality, especially given that title. And I think part of that is also that the whole fact that the story up until that point, up until this point, was always saying like she recalled blah 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 blah, or Lucy remembered, like do it, like it was always like near the beginning of of almost every paragraph, it was like something along those lines of like she would recall doing this in her childhood, and like she remembered doing this kind of thing, or she remembered Matthew kind of thing. So again, the story sort of like gives you the hints, just kind of out in the open that like this is probably going to have a twist where like reality is not as Lucy remembers it, or something along those lines. So
I'm not gonna lie, I was super curious about the origin of sliders, so I've been reading the history of sliders instead of paying attention to you.
it's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. I'll move on to my next quote and comment. So, you know what? Fuck it. What's the origins of sliders? This is vital.
I think it was White Castle that named them, and they're named sliders because how easily they slide down your throat. Apparently, so you're just supposed to eat them in one bite, just swallow it. Don't even chew.
It's. And now
I'm really sorry.
I mean, it's not fine, but it's fine.
I thought it was just going to be a really quick response that I can get, like while you were getting to your next note, and like I got super intrigued. I'm closing that webpage. I apologize.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next thing I have. This is the quote here. So treasure all your memories, good and bad, for you never know. One morning you may wake up to find everyone you know has vanished, and memories are all that you're left with. So similar to other displacement stories we've read, and this one hits in the fucking feels as much or worse, I think, in a good way than the previous stories we've read about like people getting displaced or like having their whole lives like kind of upended sort of thing. I think because of the love loss on various levels, like familial and like romantic and such like that, and like even like intimate with like having the baby and like being like not even existing at all and stuff like that. The creep.
Yeah, she gets fucked in so many ways.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Like the creepiness really comes from the fact of how sudden this change happened, and then it's just splashed with the tragic sadness of that circumstance for this poor girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the creepiness is like it could happen overnight, like just as that, and with no explanation really. Or like just that's how fast like your memories could like your you could suffer some kind of like weird delusion, or like you could just like again shift into a reality not of your own. It's very cosmic horror in that angle of like the creepiness, but then it also hits you with the sadness and the tragedy of like those circumstances of like really feeling for that person. It's like it's sort of like the same kind of like sadness and hitting the feels as what's that old Disney movie, Flight of the Navigator, where like the kid gets into like an alien ship and travels around with some aliens and robots and stuff like that, and then comes back to Earth thinking he's coming back to his the timeline he was when he got into the ship, but then finding out that it's been like 60 years or like 40 years, and like
Damn.
and like he's still a child, but his whole family is completely like moved on from him. Or it's the same kind of like hitting the feels of like the dog from Futurama that fucking killed me. Like just like that utterly destroyed my soul when I watched that episode. Because that poor fucking dog just sat there and waited for its master who was never going to return.
Oh.
And so it's like that kind of like
Futurama, that's an actual thing too.
Oh, I know.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an actual thing that dogs do, and it's fucking heartbreaking. But it's like that kind of heartbreaking tragedy that this story kind of invokes, along with the creepiness of like this event just happening so suddenly and like with no reason. Like this girl had her entire life ahead of her. Like it was a great life, like love of her life. She had a baby on the way, and then she slept over at the hospital just for like some extra because of some like strange readings, and she shifted into another reality where like her entire existence didn't exist or didn't happen.
Yeah.
The one thing that does kind of like I don't know if it spoils it. I guess in a way, the time capsule that is both in her past and in her new future. I guess that time capsule was just done by like the brother, like when he was younger. But like that's like the one anchoring thing that is like between the two realities is that time capsule is still there in that place. It's just she wasn't there doing like putting anything in it in the new reality, right?
Yeah, because even in the past reality, it says Ryan had the idea to create a time capsule, so he was going to do that anyway.
Yeah. So basically, that's the anchor point between the two realities. Is that time capsule?
Yeah, but like anything that she would have added into that wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Although speaking of, it seems weird how like empty the time capsule was.
I think that's actually probably what it meant was kind of in reference to is like there wasn't a whole lot there because there was half of what was supposed to be in there.
Yeah, but in that dimension, it wasn't filled up with a bunch of other stuff that Ryan put in.
Yeah,
you know.
I think that should have been, if that was what they were going for. I think that's what they should have maybe said in the story, like more clearly, like that it was all.
It's oddly empty.
It was all oddly empty of Lucy's things, but it still had all of Ryan, because then she would have even gotten a letter from Ryan to herself. Technically, like she's the future traveler, basically, in this setting.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I got hit in the feels with the story. So like as much as it was like it was creepy in the sad way. Like it was creepy but with a nice splash of tragedy and like and feels. So yeah, that's
basically there's way worse Mandela effect dimensions to jump into than the Berenstain Bears one that we all live in now.
Yeah. Wait, isn't that Bernstein?
No, it's not. It's Stain.
Is it Steen or Stain or Stein? All right, the bit's over.
Yeah.
We all know it's Stein. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's what I've got for my actual thoughts on the story. So Mikey, these stands for evil.
Well, to sort of continue the thought of another dimensions and stuff, and it all just being in her head.
Yeah.
Like I'm reminded of the Garfield comic strip where they did a comic strip that basically explained that Garfield is a stray cat in an abandoned house, and John and Odie or his imagination.
Oh, okay. So you're going that one. I thought you were gonna reference the one where it's just John talking to his cat, and there are no lines of dialogue from Garfield. Like,
Oh, you're talking about Garfield Without Garfield.
yeah,
Where,
yeah.
or you might be talking about a different one. Garfield Without Garfield is literally
There's
Garfield comic strip, but there's no visual of the cat at all.
Oh,
He's
okay.
talking to nothing.
Oh god, yeah, yeah.
So he's just insane.
I don't know what it is about Garfield comics that like people have taken and like made like such a variety of like creepy and sad and like dark versions of, like, because like there are the like on the far end of creepy, there's the I'm sorry John, I was so hungry, and where it's like Garfield is this like eldritch horror that like John that's like trying to eat John. But then
Wow.
but then there's the ones, yeah, like then we get the ones where it's just like it's a comic strip where somebody has edited out all of either Garfield's dialogue, Garfield himself, or it's just Garfield without anybody else, like Mikey's I think mentioning.
Mm.
But yeah, sorry Mikey,
Yeah.
continue.
Well, I posted the comment in most creepy.
All right.
Just so you can see the official Garfield comic.
Oh, so it's like a legitimate. Oh God. Oh my God, it's so sad. Oh my God.
So like this is official?
Yep.
If this was like, be really like, is this like the last issue of Garfield?
No, I don't think so.
It's probably just a Halloween one or something.
Maybe, yeah. Because like otherwise, like, oh my God, that'd be
Or
so
Jim
terrifying.
Davis was just like working through some shit during this one.
Yeah. Either like a Halloween one or an April Fool's one. Except it was the April Fool's doesn't make you laugh; it makes you cry.
Mm-hmm.
God damn, that is so sad.
Mhm. Yeah, and the thing with that is like the Garfield comic strip went on for years before this one, so
Yeah.
it's very much the same scenario.
And the fact that it's like by the creator of Garfield is like, it's sort of like just gonna fuck with my readers here. I'm neither going to. I don't know if he's like confirmed or denied that like this is like a joke, or if this is just like, or if he's just like, yeah, I'm never going to confirm or deny that this is canon.
Yes, that's the best way. Also, as a counterpoint, here's a quick Garfield Without Garfield.
Yeah. And then I guess I'll just also send
Where
you guys.
John is sitting there looking kind of annoyed, and then he looks more annoyed. Then he looks over to an empty space beside him and screams, "All right, I do believe you have hit rock bottom."
Yeah. And then I'll just.
But he's just talking to the table.
Yeah. And I guess for continuity, I'll send you guys. I'm so hungry, John.
Okay. I'm really glad we're doing this Garfield creepypasta
On recording. Yeah, exactly. This isn't even a fucking Garfield creepypasta. But apparently Garfield comics just kind of embodies this kind of like horror. He was so hungry.
So that one's basically Garfieldscape, right?
Yeah, because he ate the house in the story.
Yes.
Yeah. But then there's like other, it gets so much darker from that one. Like, because there's like,
how the hell did we get here?
It was because of Mikey bringing up this reminded him of Garfield having like realizing that like his entire reality.
Yes, right. Thank you for sharing, though. That's really creepy and cool.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Yeah,
I wanted my soul to be like ripped apart again, like after reading the story. On air or on recording.
Yes. Live on recording.
Yeah. Well, what are recordings of just memories?
Ooh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
So lost episodes are like
memories.
Yeah, basically. Or like Mandela effect situations.
Yeah. Mikey, save us from ourselves, please.
All right. So my next actual thought is that I didn't really care for the whole insane asylum storyline, because I think it's probably because it's been done to death in stories like movies and such, because it's a trope where they're all in an insane asylum at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, but it's also like realistic because if no one believes them and they're spouting nonsense, like they're going to be committed.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, like if they don't bounce back from the, or like try to move on, yeah, like they usually end up in places like that. Or they would in reality, either end up on the street or end up in one of those places. Especially since, like, again, she's basically like, she doesn't exist in this reality, so like her identification doesn't actually work out. So
mean anything? Yeah, she's basically a Jane Doe.
Yeah.
All right. And then my next actual thought is that the story to me is forgettable.
Just
and by that I mean,
you woke up this morning in a different dimension.
well, I read the story in the morning, and then same day in the evening, I was like, okay, I need to read the story for this week, and then I was like, oh wait, no, I've already read it. What happened? Like,
oof.
I actually had to think about what happened in the story.
Oh. Man, that's like the worst thing you can say about a story. Honestly.
Yeah. So like that's probably the main reason why I didn't care for the story, because like at the end of the day, it's in one ear, out the other.
Yeah, for you
type thing.
specifically.
Yeah.
Like literally right at the end of the day, it was in the ear and out the other because you didn't remember it.
And at the same time, it's oddly fitting given the story's like motifs and content.
See, reading the story, as soon as you finished it, you like closed down the web page or whatever, and then the act of doing that transferred you to a different reality where you never read it.
But you still have memory of it. And the transitionary period, that transition caused you to, for at least a moment, forget that you had actually read the story. It tried to acclimate you into that new reality.
Yes.
Because that's how that works.
Of course.
And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Gamer, what do you got?
All right. So my first note is in regards to the intro. And it says, besides the disturbing story of Patient Sigma, Clive also shared another strange story he was involved in, the mysterious and sad case of Lucy. So, previously I said, like, I didn't like how there was like a bumper at the start talking about the previous story. That's not what I'm talking about here. But what I'm talking about here is basically like the fact that Clive hung out and kept telling stories kind of felt like the events of Patient Sigma didn't really bother him that much.
Especially since he was like staring at the corner the whole time.
Yeah, but like I feel like him seeing all that, like the demon in the wall and shit from the previous story should have broken him somewhat.
Yeah.
Or like, but he seems like fine.
You know,
like he's just hanging out and he's fine to bring up this other like scar on his mind, even though it doesn't bother him apparently.
Yeah, I feel like this one should have been the appetizer that so like this one should have gone first before Patient Sigma, because like this, in terms of like how it affected the storyteller to Won't Think Straight, this one was sort of the appetizer, and then Patient Sigma was really the main course. Is like as he started telling WTS about Patient Sigma, that's when he used WTS started noticing that he was starting to stare at the corner like constantly.
Yeah, and then WTS asks him why he's staring at the corner, and then he tells him the story based on that reluctantly.
Yeah,
it would be a smoother transition between the stories, because like I said, it seems like he isn't scarred by his memories.
Yeah, he's not.
Title draw.
Yeah. Where like this story like is like he did that really big spooky like cosmic horror reveal of like there's something in the corner kind of thing, and then he read this one is like, oh, there's also this creepy case that I had, but it was also kind of really just sad, and then like gave it. It's just sort of like it's not. It's like I don't mind. Get me wrong. I liked this story, but it doesn't have the same punch even after you've read like Patient Sigma.
Well, it's because in Sigma it happened to him directly.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
Well,
like,
basically directly because he witnessed it with his own eyes. Where this one is all hearsay, basically.
Although he was there for part of it when like he brought the he examined the girl and then brought her to her in quotes home to see if they could find out anything about her, and then they found that like the ruins and stuff like that. So like it's again, it's one of those things where it's like I think it just hammers home that this story should have probably gone before Patient Sigma in the order of like the Won't Think Straight stories.
Yeah, because like this would have been a good primer for Clive to have his mind more open to fucked up things and like unreal things actually happening in our world.
Yeah, sort of.
But then when it comes around to Sigma and he sees it with his own eyes, then it breaks him, you know?
Yeah, and it also like it gives us a parallel between like that storyteller, Clive is the storyteller, and Won't Think Straight as a storyteller, who we've been like following throughout the series of like disjointed, disconnected, but connected stories.
Well, it'll be interesting if we get Clive again, and then it's revealed that Clive is actually in an insane asylum.
Yeah, that could be true. Or like, yeah, maybe.
But then both of Clive's stories technically could just not be real at all.
Yeah, which would invalidate the entire premise of the Won't Think Straight stories.
Yeah,
because it's supposed to be about like weird stuff that he can't explain or like have a really hard time explaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't want this to go full blown like Shutter Island or again like the Asylum.
But anyways, I'll move on.
Okay.
Lucy attended the local school that was an hour's walk away. She remembered making the walk 1,000 times, strolling with her brother and their neighbor Matthew. So, for me, that seems a little extreme for kids to have to walk to school every day. Is that common?
In some rural areas, yeah.
Or like, am I just unaware to this due to me living out in the sticks where I am, where I have to take a bus or had to take a bus? Rather.
Well, it also begs the question of how old this story is and when did it actually occur?
Yeah, I think this is
because
sorry.
Because I mean, if she lived on a farm, it wasn't uncommon for kids to walk to the school or even take a tractor to school.
Yeah. Also,
I guess, but like an hour-long walk seems fucking long.
Yeah. Also, it's a matter of when and where this takes place, like in her childhood, because where I think this might actually take place in the UK. Because something I noticed about either this takes place in the UK or WTS is perhaps from the UK, because something I noted in the story as I was reading it were the way certain things were written or spelled, and I'd go to like I'd look them up online like on Google, and I'd find out that they were the UK versions of words rather than.
It could also be Canadian then.
It could, but I kind of got the more.
We basically use the same spelling.
Yeah, so it could be Canadian as well. It could, yeah. But yeah, I think it's a point of like where and when like this happened, because like there are, I know, like a little bit early, depending on where you are and depending on when this was, like some people like the school might not chip in for like a bus for like 3 kids down like a road.
Oh yeah, I guess that's fair too. Yeah,
they might just like those 3 kids have to walk to school. So,
or it could be as simple as the kids are just outside of the county line.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So like they're in the county over technically. So in order to go to that school, they have to walk because there's no bus
and there's no school
going.
in your county.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And then my next one, this is in regards to Matthew disappearing and avoiding Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
For an entire week, it seemed Matthew didn't exist. His parents could provide no explanation either. So when I read that, I'm like, how can his parents not provide an explanation? Like, is he still living at home and acting normal at home, and he's just acting weird when he's out? Or is it more like they don't know why, but suddenly he changed and acts differently now?
Yeah,
I'm assuming the latter,
Yeah.
hence it's why it's glossed over, but I don't know.
Yeah, I got the same kind of feeling. And then like when it was revealed that like he had just been gone, like he like gone for a week, like to set up this whole like thing to propose to her, I'd be like, I mean, that's both romantic and also you're a dumbass. You're a dumbass. like wait till like because like fucking with your girlfriend like that much, like just to like do a setup and stuff like that, and like to like the way it seemed like he was acting toward her for that weekend or for that week. It just seemed like you better hope she says yes, because like it sounds like her saying no is getting more and more possible with each passing day.
Yeah, and like considering how much of an ass he's been, and shit, like it's entirely possible that she would have broken up with him while he's doing this.
Exactly. That's like it just seemed like such a weird move. Like I thought this is where the horror was going to happen, and then like because it's obviously like the story kind of sets it up to like as a fake out horror thing, because like takes her out into the woods and stuff like that, and then like, oh, it's a proposal thing. It's like, oh, that's really wholesome. Also, you're a dick.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Like, yeah.
But speaking of, then one Saturday evening, right after nightfall, Matthew just inexplicably showed up on her doorstep with a devilish grin on his face.
Yeah.
He asked her to follow him into the woods, but refused to explain why. He would only say that there was something she, and only she, had to see. No one else could follow.
Red flag.
So as soon as I read that, I'm like, red flag much?
Yeah, red flag. Abort.
Yeah.
Get out of there, Lucy. Abort.
Like at the time, I'm like, I know we wouldn't have a story if she didn't go, but goddamn, like especially after him being a dick, for an entire week and just ghosting her.
Yeah, like again, it's just like I kind of applaud the story for giving us like kind of a weird fake out horror scene, because like you think it's going to be like this is where the horror is going to happen, and then it's just like nope, wholesome.
Honestly,
also,
I think the horror did happen there.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest, because like something happened to Clive.
Yeah.
And it changed him and made him weird and evil. And he shows up with a creepy smile on his face. And then he takes her into the woods and he's holding her hand, and what was the term that he said in regards to that? He was like apprehensive about doing something.
Oh yeah, he was cold and nervous about something. So like I kind of
basically
he was like basically being very distant, like emotionally distant or cold toward her.
At the time, considering I didn't know that the proposal was happening, I was assuming because he was taking her to her death.
Yeah, same.
Or as a sacrifice to whatever god is puppeting him now.
Yeah.
But considering the weird like dimension hop that happened, I think that she was sacrificed to some sort of god and sent to another dimension.
I think this whole situation is an act of the Fae, like some fairy creature puppeted Clive.
God damn it, they got Clive.
Not Clive. Sorry, not Clive. Matthew puppeted Matthew.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Him, like made him do this whole.
Right, I kept calling him Clive repeatedly. Yeah. Jesus, no one corrected me.
I didn't. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, gamer.
Oh really? What were you looking up the history of sliders?
No, I was looking up the history
doing important information,
fairy folk, and like
important research.
Yeah. Anyway, so I to kind of jump onto your theory here. I think it's like a fairy puppeted. Or encountered and puppeted Matthew, had him set up this whole thing, had Matthew bring out his love interest out to the woods to propose, I do in quotes, as like under the false pretense, so that they could bone, thus having a child of fairy, like a changeling. And then so like the whole hospital thing was also just basically like a changeling situation where like instead of like swapping out the child for like a fairy, they took the child that was in her body and just shunted her to another reality.
Yeah.
Or just kind of like altered reality so that like she'd look crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But like they wanted that child. Like that's another theory we could go on with this is like that she did have a baby, but it was like Fae touched or something like that because of like the ritual that Matthew had done out in the woods. Because like it was just such a cool like and creepy folk horror kind of thing when he goes out into the woods and there's these jars packed with fireflies and shit.
Yeah, like green glowing fireflies.
Well, yeah, fireflies do have a. Some of them do have a.
Are they green?
Phosphorus. Yeah, I think so. Looking that up.
I don't recall. But regardless, it seemed like the shit that was in the jars wasn't like of this world.
Yeah.
Or was somewhat magically enhanced.
Yeah. Also, for clarity, fireflies can emit a red, yellow, or green light.
Only one of those is right. Wow, so there's stop signs? They're nature's stop signs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Your traffic lights, rather, not stop signs. Wow. You got to use that in some D&D campaign or something at some point.
Yeah, I just have like now, and because I like the movie Princess and the Frog, it's got to be a Cajun firefly like traffic person's like, all right, Touffet, let's go this way.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, mon ami.
No, there has to be three of them. There's one guy that tells you to stop, one guy that says be careful, one guy that just says let's fucking go.
Yeah. Except the red one is just like, all right.
Yes. Our brains are dumb.
Yes.
Anyways,
I'm sure something like that will pop up on One Less Die, our sister podcast of actual play games.
plug.
Yeah.
But yeah, my last note is in regards to like Lucy after the dimension hop, even though we've been kind of talking about that. But the quote is, with no further leads, Clive eventually had her committed to an asylum where she now waits out her days. So
Sad days.
Yes, but also like, so Clive knows there's weird shit out there. I don't know if this happened before or after Sigma, because we don't know.
Yeah.
But regardless, he knows that there's weird shit out there in the now.
Yeah.
When he's saying the story. So like, and if he knew about weird shit back then, like if he's actually telling these as stories in order, and he's seen the demon in the wall before, why didn't he like even try to believe that she might be telling the truth? Because like she knows intimate details about people who say that they've never met her before. Like, isn't that enough to prove she isn't lying? Like, how would she know that shit? Like about her neighbors and their kid's name that they never had, and like why would they tell a stranger this, you know?
I think you underestimate the power of denial with humans, with people.
I guess.
But also I kind of agree with you. Like, at the same time, like maybe he also like, again, like what's he gonna do? Like what's he gonna do for this woman? Like take her in? I mean, like,
no, but like basically convince her that like, okay, shit's fucked up. I don't know. I
think I get what you're saying. Like she try to like help her. Like, I believe you. What does that accomplish though? Like, she's fucked still.
Yes, but she can look. Committing her isn't the answer. Is what I'm trying to get at. Like, Clive should be like, look, I believe you. There's weird shit out there, and I think what happened to you actually happened. However, there's no way to go back. So you should get used to being here and start a new life, because it'll be a lot more comfortable than clinging to your past than being sent to a psychiatric home. Like, basically, that ring she had, she should throw it in the lake. That picture she had, she should burn it. She needs to start over. Like, I know how fucking hard that is, but if you're actually in that situation, and that's all facts around you prove, at least to you, that you are displaced, no one knows you, there's no point being upset about that. You gotta move on.
I think that's the correct way to do it. But I mean, again, also, you may underestimate how people react in those situations as well.
For sure. Like, I'm thinking about this as an outside observer.
Yeah.
As like, what's the most rational thing to do? But like, when you're rolling sand, you don't always do the most rational thing. And also, the most rational thing doesn't always lend to good storytelling for a horror story, because, like, it has to be the worst possible outcome all the time, because that's horror.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing is, like, I don't know how easy it is, like, if you are not in the system. Like, she has no identification that makes any sense to the people, to this reality. So, like, how would she go about getting back into the system so that she can get a line of credit, get a job, get her life kickstarted again? Like, even like if she is able to like overcome the emotional destruction of her life, like, how is she able to rehabilitate into society without being a homeless person, because she has no identity in this reality? Like, I
don't know.
Yeah, like, that's something that would maybe want to like might have to be considered in terms of like that kind of thing. But that's also that's a full blown story at that point.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying I want to see her day-to-day experience of her, like, climatizing to this new world that she's in, but, like, as Mikey said before, send her to an insane asylum is like the most common thing that happens to heroes or main characters in horror stories, because that's what you do in this situation, because no one believes them.
Yeah.
But there is other options. It's just not many people who take those options.
Yeah. Like, if the story had like kind of a thing where I think I would have liked it a little bit more. Like, I would thought more interesting if she didn't end up in an insane asylum, but she's like if Clive like said that like he helped her for a few years, like, get back on her feet, like get her like help and stuff like that. But she's still kind of just like, she doesn't really like talk to anybody because she feels like a complete stranger in this world. And so like she's living a life. She's trying to move on, but she's not. It'd be I would think it would be interesting if there was a bittersweet ending here where she tried to move on, but she's still kind of just this lonely person in a world that doesn't know her.
Yeah, no matter what, there won't be a happy ending.
Yeah.
But there's potentially an ending where it doesn't end with a zoom out of her sitting in a padded cell.
Yeah.
Like a million horror movies have done.
Yeah. Or basically it doesn't end with the Call of Cthulhu ending where like the investigators are in the end up in the insane asylum spouting Cthulhu Fatagan.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of that like actually kind of hails from, is from like Lovecraft. Like because of how prominent he was for horror, and like that was a big thing that a lot of his stories end with somebody just ending up in the local asylum or insane hospital. Or like,
and I'm sure that was like very inventive and
at the time,
revolutionary at the time, but it's trope now.
It might have also been the realistic thing at the time in the 20s and 30s, because like, that's where if your wife was acting a little like rebellious, you usually sent them to insane asylum, just as like, like that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it was revolutionary. It was grounded and revolutionary back in the day. Nowadays, it's become such a trope, and honestly, everyone's tired of it.
Yeah.
Especially because it's also often done very poorly and kind of disrespectfully to like the people who are suffering from mental issues and such. So, but I digress.
I digress. Yeah. These are my notes.
I digress. This is your spot.
You can digress so I can digress, because I'm digressing because I'm done with my notes.
All right. Well, I actually do have one extra thing to say. Weird. I know, guys. Because I forgot about it on my notes. So connective tissues time, or maybe it's just my phone listening to me. So the story kind of delves with information, like ideas of like Mandela effect and stuff like that. And it also didn't help that like this story has a character named Lucy, and my dog's name is Lucy. And so reading this entire story, I did not envision Lucy as a dog.
I'm not gonna lie. For the first handful of paragraphs, I actually did.
But
it was a dog that had an older dog brother.
Yeah,
and they were doing dog adventures as cartoony dog.
Okay, that would actually like this would be the lost episode of like the abandoned like Warner Brothers or Disney cartoon movie that was ever made, like the saddest cartoon movie that was ever made of like anthropomorphic dog world.
Mm-hmm. Or it's like Homeward Bound, but Homeward is like back to the dimension that you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, or I'm thinking like what's the show? Dog City.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of animation stuff. Anyway, yeah, just the Lucy thing is a personal like connective tissue time because like the character's name is Lucy. I have a dog named Lucy.
Yes.
But the other connective tissue time, or maybe just my phone listening to me. So when I was taking my notes and stuff like that, I tend to speak out loud. I tend to read the story out loud to myself, or I think out loud to myself when I'm taking notes and such. And I know I'd mentioned like Mandela effect and that kind of stuff while I was taking my notes. And then for the next day and a half on my fucking phone, like through like Twitter and TikTok and stuff, I would be getting Mandela effect videos leading up to today.
Spooky.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? God damn connective tissues. Or just the algorithm listening to me through my phone. Like,
that's why I use my phone as a phone and not as an entertainment device.
Well,
because the government's watching you.
You are both a Puritan and a conspiracy nut.
Am I? I'm one of those.
Well, you're one of the sane ones. Like everyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thought I'd add that a little bit at the end because it's like, yeah, it very connected to the story between my experience with the story and like real life. So, but yeah, I suppose we move on to final thoughts with that. So, with my final thoughts, yeah, I'm still going to recommend it. I liked the story, and while not super creepy, in our normal sense of like creepypastas and like spooky stories and stuff like that, it does make me feel things. Mostly melancholic, sad things amidst the uncomfortable, unnerving feelings of like, what if this happened?
Cultist?
Cultist.
Did we lose him again already?
Maybe. He just sucked right back into Left Town.
Hello? You guys hear me?
We hear you. Can you hear us?
Kind of. Hang
Follow
on.
the sound of my voice.
All right. I'm back.
Welcome back.
That was.
You gotta stop doing that.
What do you mean?
Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, like I was saying, the story, like, it had the creepy existential horror and dread of like everything changing, like your whole world and reality changing around you, or like just everything ceasing to exist except for like the memories that you have of those previous things. But then hits you in the feels of the aftermath of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I really dug the story for like how, like, I was wondering at one point where the story was going to hit its horror bend, and then it dropped the base, as it were. And it made the story just that much better because it made me empathetic and feel for poor Lucy. So, yeah, I'm going to still recommend the story. Mikey, these stands for evil. Your final thoughts.
Wait, we reviewed a story? Who are you people?
We're Al Dente Rigor Mortis. We review creepypastas.
You just start doing the intro.
Oh, hello and welcome. Yeah.
Anyway, so I really didn't care for the trope of insane asylum. And as I mentioned previously, for me at least, this story was very forgettable. And I didn't get any feels like Cultist did, apparently.
Well, I mean, you are a cold synth / demon from space, so you don't feel for a human victim of time of space time displacement.
Well, it just happens all the time.
I guess
it's nothing new.
Yeah, do you feel for the chicken that you're having for dinner tonight? No. It's the same thing with him and us humans.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at you, Cultist. You vanish back and forth all the time lately.
What are you talking about with that? Like, I've been here the whole time. What?
Sure you have. Sure you have, buddy.
So, yeah, you just couldn't get into the
Anyway.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just the story didn't move me, and I am still not going to recommend it.
Oh, that's fair. Gamer, what do you have for your final verdict of the story?
Well, for me, the premise of it was interesting enough, but there's like a lot left unsaid. Like, for example, why did Matthew do this? Did Matthew do this? Like, was it his fault, or did this sort of just happen to her for no reason, and he wasn't actually like being puppeted by the Fae or whatever, like you suggested?
Yeah.
There's like so much shit left up in the air.
Yeah. Well, and personally, I mean, I know this is your section, but personally, I think that is creepiest is that this just happened and we have there's no reason given, because it's just like, it's that cosmic horror of like, this could happen to anybody.
Yeah, and like we have this information through Lucy. So we have it through Clive, through Lucy.
Who and
WTS.
and the story is being told to us, reiterated by WontThinkStraight. So.
Yes. So at the end of the day, we only know what Lucy knows. So if Lucy doesn't see William, no, Matthew's his name.
Where the hell did
Matthew,
William
I
come
don't know.
from?
I have no idea. Either way, yes, Lucy did not see if Matthew was like tricked into some deal with a devil or a fae or something. He only sees what he shows, which is almost nothing because he's been ghosting her. So realistically, it's better that we don't know everything, because then it wouldn't really make sense that we would know everything.
Yeah.
But still, like, I want to know because like she's been through hell trying to deal with this, and like for no damn good reason. So if she's gonna be stuck like this, I would like to at least know.
And I mean, like, yeah, you can want that, but like at the end of the day, this is a horror story where you don't get to have all the answers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I need to have them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot left unsaid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the biggest thing is I wish Clive helped her more, or tried to help her more. Like, there's a lot of fodder here for Clive to actually be evolving as a character instead of just being a guy that told WTS about stuff.
Yeah, and even like from a doctor point of view, it's like so he was that doctor is like who got called in to like check her mental health. It's like, yeah, she's all clear. She seems to be like perfectly mentally healthy, except for the circumstances and the shit she's spewing. Here, let me take her to her home, and like, oh, that's kind of fucked up. Weird. Well, off to the insane asylum with you.
Yeah, it's so quick.
It's so cold, and I mean, this is obviously a summarization of what happened, probably within the story setting, what happened. But like, yeah, because of the way it's written like this, it does kind of make him kind of like just very cold and separated from this, despite like having such empathy for Lucy, seemingly.
Yeah, and like I had a cold feeling from him from the get-go because, like I said at the start of my notes, that like there was no reaction or consequences to Patient Sigma to him. Like all these things keep happening to him twice so far, and he doesn't seem to. It doesn't phase him. So it's like the thing that I've ran into multiple times. Like if it's not scaring or affecting the characters, why would it scare or affect me?
Mm-hmm.
Like those kind of things are the reason that I'm like partially recommending this, because I still liked the read overall. I see that there's more potential for this, and to have more like recurring characters that are actually evolving instead of just the WTS character that's sending this stuff out kind of like blindly and coldly, just putting the information out there without any real progression.
Yeah, but I mean that's not the point of the story either. For like these set of stories that he's telling us.
Well, no, but it is still a set of stories that do somewhat have an overarching progression. At least with the previous one, it was referencing the the little girl, like events were evolving and changing over time a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, considering they're all grouped together as a string of stories that you read one after another, I wish that there was more progression between them. Is all I'm saying. Especially when characters come back.
Fair.
But overall, I'll still partially recommend it because I still like the read. I want to have more Disney princess insert song here.
I don't know. I can't help but notice that this is kind of how I was feeling early on in the series, where I wanted it to be more focused around like a progression for Won't Think Straight being the center of the whole story stuff, but then like and not wanting it to be like just a collection of random spooky stories he encounters.
Mm.
And now that I've grown into that, you've grown away from that, at least with this story.
Well, of course, because they must counter you at all times.
Yeah, of course.
But seriously, that's not intentional.
I know. It's like that. Yeah.
It's because like Clive comes back is the thing.
Yeah.
And shit happened to him, but he comes back. So like, I want to see the progression.
Mhm.
If every single story is a new character telling, won't think straight about things, that'd be fine. But when you start bringing characters back and they're telling you more and more shit that's happened, you start to realize they should be a lot more fucked up than what they are.
Yeah, and again, I think it harkens back to like this story should have happened before we got the story with Patient Sigma, because then,
yeah,
again, at Prime, this one would have been it feels smaller scale, in a way than like in terms of the weirdness and like the actual outright supernatural that Clive is encountering, directly, than the previous one that we got from him. This one it's sort of like if it had been this one then Patient Sigma, it would have been like it would have ended with a bang. Whereas this one's kind of, if this is the last story we get from Clive, it's sort of ending his role in the story in the anthology with kind of a small, not with a whimper, but with like a smaller bang than the previous story.
One thing that's kind of bugging me that I just realized now, we're 7 stories deep and we still don't have any repercussions from the toilet monster early on.
The toilet monster?
He was in Thailand or something.
Oh,
and he
right.
Didn't know if he saw the thing's face, and he might be doomed.
Yeah. That's him suggesting. So I think at this point it's like, well, I guess I'm not cursed because like,
yeah, but like, there's no reference to previous stuff happening to him specifically. And meanwhile, the whole point of these series of stories is him documenting things that are actually happening, but he's not talking about himself. He's not progressing as a character.
Yeah, because he's not. He's just he's the wraparound story thing. Like the series of stories seems to be like an anthology of just stories that are starting to open his eyes to the idea that like the things that he's encountered and things that people around him have encountered, may not have a mundane logical reason behind them. They might actually be something supernatural.
Mm.
That's sort of what I got from like the premise of this like anthology of stories is like. They're all stories that like are making the characters who are in them and the person who's retelling them to us question what is normal and what is supernatural, or questioning their belief in the supernatural.
Yeah, but he's not questioning it. He's just
he's coming to real
one after another.
Yeah, because he's coming to realize that these stories that he grew up with or like he's surrounded by. They can't be explained. Whereas before, like that was his whole thing was like he grew up thinking that like everything could be explained, and now he's starting to come to terms with like maybe some of the shit can't be explained through like regular mundane reasons. But yeah, so still partial recommendation then?
Yeah, still partial because I still enjoyed the read.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that'll be a recommendation, a partial recommendation, and a non-recommendation, depending on the perspective of the story, and depending on your opinion and mindset, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
But that'll do it for this week's episode. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. We're all on Twitter mostly.
I'm really not. Don't you mean X?
Listen, we're in a timeline I don't want to be in, honestly, with that.
The X timeline.
I do not like the X this dark X timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow without that W at the end because his name is very long.
Yeah.
And I'm at Review Cultist. I'm also on Blue Sky at Review Cultist, so you can send me messages there. You can also send us emails at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky things. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah! And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. We have $2 and $5 tiers with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely, because without your listenership, it'd be like screaming into the void, the multi-shifting, reality-bending void. And without your stories that you write and post online for people to look at and enjoy and get spooked by or dread, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we have nothing to talk about. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Rigamortis Al Dente. Sleep well.
I'm sorry?